Hi everyone, this is Dianne Devitt and welcome to This is a Stick Up. Today we're actually continuing our interview with Steve Fader, the owner and founder of CheckinTech, a man of many talents. In our first interview with Steve, he actually shared information with us about his beginnings and how he became involved in the White House and the politics and became part of the advance team, right, Steve?
Yeah.
So I know, so we left off, and I think this is because this is for an event audience too, and political audience. Like, what is the concept of advance, and what did the whole experience of being on the advance team do, and how did it help you to then segue into other major areas of the events industry, which you did, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so advance is, as we were saying earlier, it's basically political event planning. The only thing different is that typically in events, you have 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years to plan something. Advance, sometimes you have 5 days or less to plan the same type of event.
Right.
So it's really pressure, a lot of decisions on the fly, to make what looks great in front of the audience might be absolute chaos behind the scenes.
Chaos.
So, I guess when I started doing advance, it's a club, and a lot of people ask, how do you get into it? And it really is a small group of folks who learn all the different pieces of it, and typically that comes from the White House or doing campaign work.
But one question, the advance team is obviously made up of many interns, right? But then there are full-time people with it, and that's just from my own, I don't understand.
Great question. So believe it or not, and sometimes when you tell people this, they're like, they can't believe it. Believe it or not, like in current White House and every White House that I've worked with, they have 2 or 3 permanent advance people. And then there's about 500 of us in the world, depending on your choice of who, what party you're with, that have done it in the past and are called up to volunteer their time. So we're not employees of the government. We're actually sort of contractors.
Understand.
But it's not like when we tell people we're volunteers. It's not like, hey, you person on the street, who's done a little bit of events. How about you work with us? There's a lot more of a process there.
Understand.
But what advance really is that the way I describe it is that if you're watching CNN or MSNBC or any of these news shows, and you see the president standing in front of a crowd, whether it's here in the United States or internationally. It's not like he just, he appeared out of the blue or landed and said, "Hey, let's go over to this location and see if there's anybody around. I'll start chatting." No, there's an advance team that's been sent on the ground 5, 10, 15 days prior. That includes Secret Service, security, a full array of different military folks, and then the White House advance team, and they look through every little piece. So basically, we're in charge of ensuring that when the president comes off the plane to the time they get back on the plane, every minute detail has been figured out and all the logistics has been, and they're basically following you depending on your role.
I have a question. Another thing that comes to mind is, does the advance team only work for the current sitting president, or is the advance team open to all presidents?
That's a great question. So former presidents still ask for folks to help, and I still do some stuff for President Clinton and travel. And I've actually, since he's left office, just to give you a sense, I've traveled to close to 25 countries with him.
You can't keep a good man down. He loves to travel.
He does. And that's a great thing about advance, is you get to see the country, parts of this country that I would never see, and have conversations with farmers and people that you don't see on a regular basis here in New York City, as well as internationally and places. I've been to Africa a few times. I've been to places that I don't think I would probably travel to without doing advance. So former presidents, former vice presidents. There's also a lot of folks who use advance people during campaign season. So if you're running for a statewide office, a senator or a governor's race, or even a House race, they'll have, and even mayoral actually, will have advanced people to work out the logistics before they arrive, but not at the extent at the White House level.
No, understood. And I've been in the industry for such a long time, worked with 5 presidents, and I think one of the best compliments I ever received was from one of the Secret Service who said, your job is very similar. Like, you try to do, basically, he said, you try to do what we do, but,
Yes.
because in the events industry, I've always been of the belief that we go in with our risk management first.
Yes.
To suss that out, and then when we decide what the guidelines are and what we can't do and what we need to follow, then we build that event. So with the experience in advances, then that also prepared you for large-scale events.
Sure.
Because nothing can scare you when you work at a certain level, right?
Well, when you're planning a 40,000 person rally,
right,
and you've been dropped on the ground 5 days before, and in those 5 days you have to find a location, get the word out of where that location is to get those people ticketing, security, staging, lighting, sound, and about 1,000 other things. When you do it at that level and that pressure, and it has to meet something that was going to, for CNN or any of these news organizations are going to go live and it looked professional, then I had moved. So after I did the internship at the White House, I stayed in politics and did advance. I worked actually on Al Gore's presidential campaign for a little bit, and then there was an opportunity to move up to work on Hillary's first Senate campaign here in New York, where I was the first director of advance. I'm sorry, not the first, the director of advance for the Senate campaign, and one of the youngest directors of advance in the country. And that was a big test because we had major news coverage of then First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton traveling around the state of New York. But after all advance was over, and she had won the Senate, I wanted to take a step back out of politics, and I wanted to learn more about the event industry and do more events outside of politics. So I left and I worked for a company called Rayhaj Entertainment. And at the time, Steve Rayhaj, who started the company, did 2 major events a year. And we talked earlier, 40,000 person rally we would do in 5 days. We did a 40,000 person run walk here in New York City called the Revlon Run Walk, which I don't know if they still do, where they shut down Times Square. No joke, we shut it down completely overnight. And then you would start off there, and it was a run or a walk to Central Park. It was a 5K. And it took us 6 months to plan that. And so learning all of those pieces, learning when you have more time, all the little things you have to focus on.
Absolutely.
Really focus very, very carefully on the folks who are running and walking it, because it's basically raised money for women's cancers.
Which is the core objective of the whole event.
So we did that, and then we did a polar opposite event, which was an 80,000 person rock concert in New Orleans called the Voodoo Music Festival.
Oh, I didn't realize you were involved with that.
Yeah.
Oh, 80,001 the next time.
There you go. Absolutely.
But wow.
Yeah.
All right. So like once you deal, listen, it's like I tell people, once you deal with 10,000 or 20,000, 80,000 is just get a bigger space.
Absolutely.
The logistics are the same.
It's just
right?
you're getting more. You have to get just more equipment. But a lot of my friends would ask, well, what's the difference between working with a rock star, and all their demands,
sure, of course,
and a politician and all their demands? And the answer is there's really not much.
And a chef, and a this, and a that.
there's some elected officials, and thankfully most of the folks I've worked with are not like that. We're very demanding, very specific, and want their things done certain ways. And as far as the same thing you would find with folks in the music industry, there are some folks who are very easygoing, and some that require, as we've all heard about these stories of red M&Ms only in the dressing room and all sorts of crazy stuff that comes with it.
I actually find working with people who guide you, and even in my own world as a speaker, it helps people to have some some form of structure. But like you say, it can go either one way or another.
Sure.
We're in a people business. But but how exciting with that. I mean, really that you had the experience to work on the many cause-related events and the festivals, and it gives you quite an eclectic background, Steve Fader.
Yeah.
I mean, someone, like you say, the youngest, and there has to be an award for that one day. I'm going to make sure that I'm part of it, and I hope that I get to give it to you.
Well, maybe the reward for me, or an award as well, is just to be able to be involved with such an amazing campaign, and given the responsibility and the trust to get done what we needed to get done for that.
And understand the level that you're working on it's a very very intense environment.
Intense, professional.
Yes.
You have to be very calm under stress. And a lot of things go wrong, especially when you're planning something with only a few days.
Right.
Definitely things are going to drop, and so you need to just figure it out. Like when you're on the campaign trail, you need a backdrop. And if you're 5 days out, we had an instance where we had something being mailed to us, shipped. It was a nice big banner, supposed to say whatever it was. It never showed up. And we're now the night before the event.
What do you do?
And we need something.
You take a sheet.
Well, the best thing, if you have to, you need a sheet, which we've done as well. One of the rules of thumb in advance is when in doubt, use an American flag, right? So now we're looking for an American flag at 7 o'clock at night, and there's no vendors in this small town. But I remember, driving past a car dealership. The car dealership had a huge flag outside on a flagpole.
Right.
And so I walked in, and I said to the dealer, I said, how would you like to make a little extra money?
Right.
And he was like, I'm listening. And I said, can we borrow your flag? I'm going to give it back to you tomorrow. In fact, it'll be, and give you some free tickets to the event.
Perfect.
And he said, sure. And so we had our backdrop. So these are the sort of things you have to think outside the box. And I think that's a really good skill, especially with all the technologies out there. We're going to talk about technology and the company that I own, right?
Right,
yeah, of course.
exactly.
But there's still some very important to have those assets in the back of your mind. If your computer breaks down, or if the plans you can't find, or if something as similar as something like we're talking about as a backdrop is not to be found, you need to just put on your hat and a thinking cap and just figure out another option.
No question. This industry is not for the faint of heart. But it is about being resourceful.
Yes.
And it's about thinking on your feet. And I think, just wrapping up today, first of all, thank you. But, working under the pressure, whether it's political campaign, festivals, people of that, it's a matter of keeping your focus, taking one step at a time, being always security involved. And so I think it's just great. I love it. So Steve, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. And stay tuned, everyone, because in the next episode and next interview with Steve, we're going to learn a little bit about CheckinTech, which is actually revolutionizing the meetings and events industry with its technology. So stay tuned and thank you.